Hey, brother. Thanks for being with me today, man.
Thanks a lot for having me, John. I appreciate it.
Hey, so, dude, tell me, first of all, where are you at?
I am currently at home in High Point, North Carolina, and I'm fortunate that I get to work from home Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So I have quite a bit of travel. Then I travel over to Durham to our offices on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
So, give me the scoop on your background, man. Siblings, mom, dad, where'd you grow up, born, that type of thing.
Oh man, we're gonna dig deep here. It was I was an only child, so insert all the jokes here, that everybody else likes to insert. Only child. I grew up in the country in central Illinois, in the thriving metropolis of New Holland, Illinois. Population 300. Grew up a mile outside of town. My family, my grandparents, and my father, they were farmers until my grandfather passed. Then my dad was working full-time job and farming. I was way too much for him. So kept the land and sold the equipment, and a lot less stress. It doesn't matter to him if it rains or not anymore. My dad was working full-time and farming with my grandfather until my grandfather passed. So now he sold the equipment, kept the land, sold the equipment. We rent the land, and he doesn't worry about if it rains or not anymore. So as I said, only child. I had to get creative with what I would do to fill the time, I guess. You know what I mean? So I always enjoyed sports. I was never really into hunting. Fished a little bit. Enjoyed baseball quite a bit. Enjoyed basketball. So obviously baseball has been a part of my life ever since I was 5 or 6. So I grew up next to family. We had grandma and grandpa were literally across the field from us until grandpa passed, and then other grandparents on my mom's side were in a town an hour away. Aunt and uncles were 30 minutes away. So grew up with a lot of family around us.
Now, so tell me, is your dad still alive?
Yes, absolutely. He is
Okay.
here. He loves his granddaughters way more than me. I know that. But that seems to usually be the case with anybody that we talk to. So yeah, they make it out here quite frequently to visit. He's retired. My mom's retired now as well. So we're expecting them here on, let me see, December 18th, which is also my wife and I's anniversary, which works out good. We get a free babysitter for anniversary dinner.
There you go, baby. That's perfect timing.
Right. That's right. Yeah, I'm fortunate to have him around still and to lean on him and get guidance from him. When I know a lot of guys don't have that, so I consider myself blessed.
How did he influence you in both as a husband and a father?
I think as a husband, I saw he wasn't the most affectionate person. You know what I mean? But my mom could always get a kiss out of him, and he was super, super, super hardworking. The what everyone says about their dad, always took care of everybody else and then took care of himself if he took care of himself at all. So I hope to people think I have some of the work ethic that he has, to be honest with you. So he worked swing shift for 30 years. I never saw him complain. He just went in and got it done and provided for us, and I will always be thankful for that.
That's very cool. Um, Give me the story on like how now you're in the position. You'll tell guys kind of what you're doing now, but how that kind of all came together for you.
How everything else comes together. A lot of accidents and a lot of work that gets put in, and sometimes you get rewarded, sometimes you don't. I started with I alluded to playing baseball earlier. I played through high school, was fortunate to play through college, for 5 years. Played for 4 years, went for 5 years. I was having so much fun. I got to stay for an extra year. So 5 years of college, Lincoln College and McMurray College in central Illinois. Never strayed too far from home. Small schools, small class sizes. I would have got ate up, at a big university in a lecture hall with 300 other people. That would have been bigger than the whole town I grew up in. So was fortunate to be there for 2 years and then 3 years at McMurray. And I went in and I got my undergrad in PE, physical education. So I thought I wanted to coach, and I'll just go coach high school or do whatever. And, coach some high school baseball and be a PE teacher. And my college coach sat me down, Kevin Best, and he said, "Hey, what do you want to do?" So I want to coach. That's what I want to do. I want to coach baseball. Okay. So what level do you want to coach? I said, I don't know. I just want to coach. I'll go be a PE teacher and go coach somewhere. Because I didn't know how you became a college baseball coach. And, I was too cool to ask any questions to ask someone in the field how they did it. So he said, hey, you know what? You can always not go down, but you can always coach that level of high school if you've coached college previously. You can't always get a college job if you coached high school and then try to move up. It just doesn't always happen. And what he didn't tell me was, it was great advice, but what was unspoken was, you're not going to go from having a full-time job as a high school teacher with these things called benefits and retirement and things like that, and then go be a college coach like my first job where I was making $14,000 and got a free dorm room to live in. You're not going to go from one to the other. So I went the other route. It was a complete stroke of luck or a blessing from above, whatever you want to call it. I randomly applied for a job at a junior college in Southern Illinois. I knew nothing about them. I just knew they were only 3 hours from home. And they had an opening for a pitching coach. I was a catcher my whole life, so I knew how to talk to pitchers. And what better example to have for a pitching coach than someone that knows how to talk to them. So I applied for the job. I ended up getting it. Like I said, $14,000 in a dorm room, and it was Wabash Valley College down in Mount Carmel, Illinois. It was the best thing that ever could happen to me professionally. I got to go work for Rob Fournier, who now has won close to 1,000 games and been to the College World Series, the JUCO World Series, and had close to 100 players get drafted by major league teams. And you want to talk about a work ethic, man, it was coaching 101, and I was eating it up. I was loving every minute of it, 60, 70-hour weeks, recruiting, coaching, managing the dorms. It was awesome. And I didn't realize I got that job because Rob Fournier was an alum of the school that I just graduated from. And there were some behind-the-scenes phone calls with him and my coach that I didn't know about. I didn't know that's how the world works. I just thought that I was really good on my interview, and he really needed me in his program, and how wrong I was. But it was all about relationships, and so I'm thankful that I had those relationships in place that allowed me to go somewhere to really, really grow in my journey with what I wanted to do, So was there for 3 years, had some success, was fortunate to coach some players who were super, super talented and who got to move on to some great things, not because I coached them. They were already really, really talented. I went back home to Lincoln College after 3 years to be an assistant coach, dorm director there for the head coach that I had played for. I had a great 2 years there. Went there because they offered opportunities to myself and my wife, and I was able to get my master's paid for while I was there and got to coach as well. So that continued me on the journey. I got my first head coaching job at my other alma mater, McMurray College, I referenced before. So fell into that by a stroke of luck. The opening was there when I had finished a master's and had experience. So was there for 2 years, helped turn the program, get it started on the right track after my old coach had left. Very, very bad luck had hit that place or bad something. And I inherited a dumpster fire, and we took it from dumpster fire to somewhat resembles a program. So left it better than I found it. And then the AD that hired me there had moved out to Kansas to an NAI school in Lindsborg, Kansas, little town of 3,000 people, Bethany College. So he asked me if I would come out there with him. And so I went, spent 4 years there as head coach and associate athletic director. Then one of my best friends in coaching called and said, hey, man, I know you're burnt out on the coaching small school baseball. So we've got a job open with the American Baseball Coaches Association, the ABCA, in High Point, North Carolina, which is the professional organization for baseball coaches. They run the National Coaches Convention every year, convention of 7,000 people with an 8-man staff and a lot of contractors. So it was cool. I always went to the convention, but then to see behind the scenes was awesome. It was really, really good. Was there for only like a year and a half, and then we had done some things at the ABCA with USA Baseball, and so we stopped working together on a certain project, and then USA Baseball said, hey, we'd like for you to join us. So I'm there now currently as the director of coaching development. We have moved a lot. I don't want to move again. We like it here. I like the climate here. I like how it's not 30-mile-an-hour winds in my face every single day like it was in Kansas for 4 years. And honestly, not coaching, but still working in baseball for a greater good. USA Baseball is a national governing body, but we're still a nonprofit. We have a lot of educational arms to what we're doing. And I feel like I get to make a difference every day, but I also get to take care of my family more, to be honest with you. That's what got me out of coaching in the first place, is the amount of time. the time that I could spend with my family, and I'm sure we'll talk about later with some of my family's needs that we have. That was a decision I made. I just was fortunate enough to fall forward, if that makes sense.
And that's, I know in the coaching arena, matter of fact, believe it or not, I got my degree in coaching and teaching. My first year out, I was coaching and teaching at a middle school at a suburb of Dallas. And, the time is amazing. I got friends of mine that are coaches, and it's like, it's just crazy. I can see, as I see it in my friends, and the long hours, especially in season, the long hours it takes away from your family, and just trying to figure out, guys already have a hard enough time with work life balance, right? Well, then you throw in a profession where it's just a ton of long hours. How, obviously you made a change as a result of it, but when you were in the midst of it, was there a secret, or was there a way that you found a balance and how to try to keep that somewhat in a healthy standard?
No, the short answer is no. I didn't find it, to be honest with you. I wish I would have found it a lot sooner. So I sometimes have that feeling of, I miss the personal relationships that I had with the players. And really, the best relationships with the players I had occurred in my last year of coaching. So it's almost like I finally found a way to connect with them on way, way deeper personal level. But at the same time, I wasn't focused enough on my family. I didn't know how to balance it, and I didn't do a good job of it. So any young coach I talk to now, I try to take what I failed at and help them with it, to be honest with you. And I make sure that I pump it up with those guys. And I talk about some strategies that I've thought about, ways I would have done things differently. And I just really wish someone would have showed those to me when I was in the thick of it.
And I guess maybe because I hear more and more stories now about coaches and having that kind of balance. It seems more and more kind of understanding that, man, if you're going to have a healthy dude when you have him, you got to help him kind of somewhat be engaged at home, or at least know that that's an important part of his life, right? Do you think is that the biggest issue in coaching, is trying to find that work-life balance and how that plays out in your life?
If it's not the biggest, it's very, very, it's in the top three, to be honest with you. You see guys all the time that in coach, I keep saying guys, there's girls too, but you see guys all the time in coaching that it's one or the other, and they're not moving up in jobs by level where there's more time commitment, more stress if they have a family, or they're saying, I'm not going to take, or they have to say, like, I can't have it all. I can't have that job that I want that's really high paying or high profile if I want to see my family fairly regularly at all. You can't have it both ways. So I think for every Instagram post that a coach puts out there about his family once a week, that's really what it is. It's one Instagram post. It's not the continual every single day. I know guys are finding little nooks and crannies, but I mean, is that what you want to do? Do you just want to be a nook and cranny father, husband? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I think it also depends on what season of life they're in. So you can be somebody like me that I didn't know any better. I didn't see any better. And I'll be honest with you, our marriage and my fatherhood might still be not very good, and I might still be coaching if I didn't have a friend in the right place at the right time that offered me a different outlook of where to work. You know what I mean? So I'm only saying those things today because it worked for me. It happened to happen for me. But there's a whole lot of things that I wish I could have done different. I'll tell you that.
Guys struggle with that work-life balance. And even me, is when I started the ministry, I caught myself just getting so caught up in trying to help others that it was like, whoa, hold on a second. I'm losing focus, because you get so caught up in, and I can imagine it's the same way in coaching. It's, I'm pouring in, I'm helping this young man become a man, both on and off the field. And so that becomes so much of part of what you're doing, that somehow you feel like there's something good coming out of that, but you lose sight of what that same pouring into is not happening in your family, right?
100% correct. 100% correct. Every extra hour-long meeting that you've got to have in the office at 6 o'clock means that that's another hour that you're not at home that you could be. And I use 6 o'clock just as a reference point, but It's, certain times of the year, you've got 6 a.m. weights and you've got to be there at weights and be with your team. Okay. Then you need to meet with a couple guys after weights. And all of a sudden it's like, I missed getting the kids ready. And my wife's got to shoulder the burden. And on top of the time commitment that you have to take away from your kids, if you have kids, that's also more of a burden that you're putting on your spouse. And you don't think about it because most coaches' wives say, I'll handle it. I know this is the gig. This is what I signed up for, but it still doesn't mean it's right. So you've got to find ways to if you're a head coach, you've got to allow your assistants to do some things for you. And that's something that I feel like my last year, maybe 2 years, I had to leave practice sometimes to go pick up my daughter or to go do something. And I did it. If I was an assistant coach at a larger school or something where I was not held accountable more, but I would have been expected to do those things, I just wouldn't have been able to be quite honest with you. But since I was a head coach, I felt like I could. And I felt super guilty about it, leaving practice for 30 minutes. 30 minutes, right? You can leave work for 30 minutes at a lot of different professions. I left practice for 30 minutes, felt guilty about it. Now looking back on that, I think I showed my players that I was going to put my family first. And they might not realize it. They might not realize it till they see this interview. They might not realize it till they have kids. But they're like, hey, you know what? It's okay. I had a coach that didn't spend 15 hours a day in the office. I had a coach that cared about me, and I had a coach that really cared about his family in the show. And then if that's the case, if one guy feels that way, then I can feel like I did something worthwhile in my profession.
But the other thing that's doing is it's showing you're leading by example, even among your other coaches, for them to see this guy he puts family as priority. That's huge, man, especially with the younger coaches, so that they see, dude, it's not just all about wins and games and, work. And I can see, especially in coaching, it's that idea of, and it happens in the corporate world too, where the guy's like, I got to be the last one to leave so everybody sees that I'm working. They're sitting around doing nothing for hours, but they want to be the last one who leaves. And I'm sure that's kind of the pressure in coaching too, right? I'm going to wait to be the last guy to leave so the head coach will think I'm putting in all these hours. That's probably another big issue, right?
100%. Yeah, no doubt. That's what it is. There's times too that I would say to one of my assistants, hey, get out of here. You spend enough time every day, just get out of here. No, we got this to do. I'm like, no, really, leave. You need to get out of the office. You have to. And there's some guys who understand that, and there's some guys who don't understand that. And I've nothing wrong with you. You want to pour everything you've gotten into your work, that's fine. Just don't neglect your family. So, and like what I tell a lot of guys is give more of yourself, and I'm guilty of it too. Give more of yourself. So if you have 24 hours in a day and you're going to give 12 of it to your career, that's okay. If you can find a way to give a lot of your hours also to your family, that means give up some of your sleep. That means give up some of your leisure activities, whatever it is, because you need to give more of yourself to the people that expect it of you.
What does the game of baseball teach a young man about life?
It teaches more than any other sport because it is a game of failure. As a hitter, you fail 70% of the time. That means you hit 300 and people think you're successful. And it also, the biggest thing is, there's a quote somewhere from a famous manager. I stole it. I don't know if it was Earl Weaver or who, but baseball is the greatest game because you have to give the other man their chance. You can't run the clock out. You can't run a trick play. You can't just say, we're gonna take a knee 3 times and the game's over. No, you have to get all 21 outs or 27 outs, depending on how long the game you're playing. You have to get those outs. There's no easy way out. So you have to give everybody their fair chance to win the game. And then also it's a game of failure, and it's a game of mental toughness that doesn't happen in real quick spurts. Like football happens, there's a play, boom. Those guys are really smart. I can't imagine memorizing a football playbook. The play happens, then it's over. And the play happens, then it's over. Well, in baseball, the play happens, then it's over. Then you wait even longer. And you've got to be mentally tough and understand what could the next play bring you. There's no script. There's not a lot of film to watch. Like in basketball, you know what your opponent's going to do. Football, you see that sometimes as well. But baseball, there's no script. I mean, you have to be able to react on the fly and understand what the opponent's giving you.
In your career and everything that you're doing, and even in today, and I know you said you guys do some workshops and you travel all over. What do you think is the biggest thing that's lacking in young men's lives? What can we do better as coaches, as fathers, to help build and shape our young men into better and stronger young men?
I mean, from the athlete perspective, I think what we could do is just tell them after games, hey, I really enjoyed watching you play today. And that's it. That's it. It's not, hey, why'd you go for two? Why'd you make an error? Why'd you miss that shot? How, we just practiced that. That's not it. Hey, I enjoyed watching you play. Teach them what it means to really be a competitor. I'm guilty of it. I gave private lessons when I was a college coach, and sometimes some coaches have to do that to survive. So they're making no money, but there's this huge emphasis placed on chasing trophies and winning championships. That's a fine line because, you say, hey, we want to teach our kids how to compete. That's fine. But you also need to teach them how to be competitors. Okay. And so there's a big difference between going to compete for a trophy and going to be a competitor to make yourself better. And so I think that's really what we're lacking. There's a lot of coaches who don't do any character training whatsoever. It's just all about the wins and losses. I could go on and on. There's a whole lot of people on social media that think they can fix it too. But I have yet to see someone come up with one surefire way to get that corrected. But yeah, I mean, especially in youth sports, it's, I don't want to throw around one of the crazy words that other people use, but it's alarming. Some of it, the pressure that's placed on the kids when all we need to do is tell them, hey, I really enjoyed watching you play, and talking about what it means to be a real competitor.
Dude, I love that. And I think about that in my own experience. I really love watching you play because I think so many dads are so quick to judge or be critical. I have this quote that I post all the time on social media. Your kids are going to have their share of critics, but you should not be one of them. And what I mean in that is there's a way to help your children get better, but do it in a positive way where they're not always feeling like they're just getting beat down, right? And I've seen some crazy stuff, and I know you have too, with dads, and just the insanity of, I've seen dads walk away from their kids after a game, like pissed off.
Mom's off the hook, though.
You're right. You're right. No, I've seen some moms that are pretty crazy too, as you have, I'm sure.
Right.
But dude, that piece of advice for every dad that's listening, I really enjoyed watching you play. Dude, that is awesome, because I think we're so quick to jump into the negatives. I had a friend of mine who was a baseball player, and his dad just constantly beat him down. And he said, man, my dad came and saw me play college baseball for the first time. He was up in like Missouri Valley or somewhere like that. And he says, I hit 2 home runs in one game. And he goes, the second home run, I'm running around the bases. And I'm thinking, my dad's finally, after this game, going to say, dude, I'm proud of you, because he had never heard it. And he says he gets over after the game, and his first thing is he says, hey, Dad, what do you think? Hit 2 home runs today. And he said, yeah, but you struck out the third time. You just kind of go, oh my gosh, man, come on, right? And I'm sure you see that, or you've seen that all the time. It's that dad living through somehow vicariously through their children, or that performance-based love, and it's so destructive.
That's a good phrase, performance-based love. I'm very fortunate in that my dad never was one of those people. He would ask questions. He played sports, but not like most guys his age. They didn't play travel baseball, and they didn't play year round and do some of those things. And he didn't put a ton of pressure on me to succeed, but he afforded me every single opportunity to go play that I wanted, which was all the time and on any team, and get whatever equipment I needed. He provided that for me without telling me that I had to hit a certain batting average in order to get a new set of catcher's gear. It was never like that. So I'm very fortunate that was the case.
Is that something, though, that you've seen through the years? Is that performance-based love? It's like, man, if you play well on the football field or the baseball field or whatever, I'm going to show you love. But, man, if you don't have a good game, dude, I'm done. You're going to get the talking to on the way home, et cetera, et cetera.
100%. See it all the time. And then when I was coaching small college baseball, my assistant and I, Justin Fuller, we refereed together. And so I saw it from a different angle. I was a basketball referee. And I like reffing basketball. I was basically getting paid to exercise. I was running up and down the court, and it was great. But I saw some crazy people, some crazy parents, and some crazy coaches. And I saw some coaches who coach their sons who were even crazier, to be honest with you. And it's very, very alarming, because it's just going to be a cycle. They're going to think that's how it is. And that's not how it should be. You know, you can say that you have unconditional love for your child, but then go to one of their athletic events and see if you really have unconditional love for them. Because there's some people that I don't think that's the case. So if we can shift as a culture and like, hey, you know what, sports are great. And believe me, I work in sport, I work in athletics, but I don't think that we need to tie what we think about our children to their athletic performance or academic performance or any performance. You know, we should just provide them the best, provide them what they need to be successful, and really provide them the guidance and the love that they need to be good people.
You know, there was a theory. I was talking to a dad not long ago at dinner, and since social media, and you've probably seen this shift, but since social media, it was this idea, and he presented it. I had not even thought about this piece. He said, you know, now even with social media, it's like parents want their kids to do even better because they want to be able to take a picture of them with a trophy, or them showing what a great parent they are because their kid won first place and this, whatever. And I was thinking, you know what? We already had this issue with that performance-based love. Now it's like exponentially gotten worse because mom wants to, dad wants to show how amazing their kid is or how amazing of a parent they are. Is that something you've seen at all, or did you see a shift at all when all that came about, or has it just always been there?
No, it's definitely been there. It's everyone's own personal highlight reel. You know what I mean? How many people go on social media and say, man, I really wish I was better today. Or man, my son, he got 7th place. No one ever posts. You just don't post it. You know what I mean? That's what it is. I'll give you a small example. Thankfully, my wife has led me to this, as we have 2 girls. She has led me to really pushing them, not as much, trying to frame this the right way. She has showed me how to take what they do well, even if it can't be measured, right? My oldest daughter, Kendall, is the most loving, kind-hearted, great person in the world. She is 6, almost 7, and she is so willing to trust and be so caring that it almost scares me. You know what I'm saying? It really does. We go into her 1st grade parent-teacher conferences, and she is a great teacher, and she has grown so much academically this year. She's talking, it was the standard public school, well, here's where she's testing at, and here's how many words she knows, and here's this, and here's that. And I'm like, okay. I said, have you seen growth this year? She's like, oh yeah, like it's been great. I said, okay, well, start with that next time. Tell me how much don't just show me the numbers, you know, how much she's grown. Oh yeah, okay. So we get through it, and then I said, hey, here's what I really want to know. Is she a good person? Is she kind to others? Is she, you know, are those the things she's doing? And the teacher goes, oh, yeah, she's great. She's the first one to help somebody else out. She's the first one to do this. She's very, very caring. I said, that's all I'm really worried about. She's in 1st grade, okay? We're not going to tell if she's going to Harvard or not based off of her 1st grade academic marks. But is she a good, kind, and caring person? Because that is what she's going to be the rest of her life. So that's what I'm really concerned about. So sorry, that was my tangent there, but it's something I try to slip into every conversation that we're having about kids, because we get so focused on the measurements that we lose sight of some of the emotion, some of the feeling that these kids have.
Dude, I love it. And I think that guys need to hear that. Men need to hear it's not about all straight A's. It's not about whatever. It's about, man, am I doing a good job of just raising a good kid, right? Somebody that honors others, respects others, is polite, all of those things. What's been your biggest struggle, and how did you overcome it?
My biggest struggle that has not been overcome and currently ongoing is how I deal with but how do I parent the emotions in it's okay to laugh in a 4 and a 6-year-old girl. Because I'm an only child. First of all, I don't know how the sibling dynamic works because I didn't have it. Second of all, I don't know how it is being with younger females because I didn't have that. Obviously not having siblings. So I am lost at sea right now. And I've been told it's only going to get worse. And I've got two of the greatest kids in the world, but the struggles, and especially like just getting ready in the morning, let's do this, here we go. And somebody's always upset. And I don't know if that's ever going to go away. So I need to learn how to manage it, and learn how to give them, I don't know if it's the space they need or the love they need or whatever the case may be, but I have not overcome it, and I hope to very, very soon.
Dude, hey, I've got 3 girls, bro, so I hear you. I'm still learning. I still don't have the answers to that stuff, but it's amazing, man. It's amazing what young girls can teach a man. They've taught me so much more than I've probably ever taught them, and about relationships and about so much that yeah. What's been your biggest achievement as a dad, do you think?
Man, that's hard. I think that to go off path a little bit here, I grew up going to church sometimes, but not really knowing what it meant to be a Christian and really what it meant to have that walk. And so I think that with my wife's nudging, we have been way more diligent in that, in our spiritual walk as a family. We're members of a church. We teach 4th grade Sunday school together. If you would have told me 10 years ago I'd be teaching 4th grade Sunday school on Sundays instead of coaching baseball, I would have told you were crazy. That's what we do. But my greatest achievement is probably my 6-year-old Kendall, when she said to us the other day, insert girl's name from after school care, which I don't want to say her name, said, that she doesn't even know God. She doesn't even believe in God. We said, oh, okay, well, that's unfortunate, and we hope that she does. And she said, well, how can I tell her? How can I tell her about how great God is, how great Jesus is? Oh, well, Kendall, here's some ways that you can go about that. And the next day, or a couple of days later, she comes back and she's like, she just doesn't understand. She doesn't understand. And we said, okay, well, actually, it's going to be how you live your life and how you act towards other people. Right. And then if she associates you with being a Christian, then she's going to understand like what it means to be one. That's really what it is. And so I didn't ask those questions until I was 26, if even 20, if I was closer to 30, but I've already got my 6-year-old, or we've already got our 6-year-old asking those questions, then I'm counting that as an achievement.
Dude, you know what? In teaching 4th grade Sunday school, God can humble you.
No, sorry, 4-year-old. I'm sorry if I said 4th grade. 4-year-old.
Even more so, he can humble you. Yeah, that's like, dude, you want to pray for some humbling going on. That's humble pie every day you walk in there, I'm sure.
It is. It definitely is. It was really rewarding. The first year, last year was the first year we did it, and it was very challenging. We had a room full of boys, and they act way differently than the girls do that we're used to dealing with, in our house. But it was fun, super challenging. We almost threw in the towel about halfway through. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, it's time for move up. So those boys left, they moved up. New group comes in, and now we've got our younger daughter with us as well in our group. But the group that moved up is just right down the hall. And when they see me or my wife and we get a hug and we get those high fives, it's like, man, I feel like I actually did something right. And there's a lot of days where you don't feel like you do anything right. That's when I actually feel like I did something right.
Dude, and I think I remember you telling me in our conversation, did you guys foster or
Yes.
adopt? Tell me that story.
Well, I mean, our family dynamic, and I don't feel bad sharing it. I share it with other groups that I speak with just to get it out there. Right. So I turned 30 on my first coaching job, was married, obviously. We bought our first house. It's happening just how we said it would. This is how it's going to be. Boom, 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 boom. Nicole, my wife, is pregnant. Great. We're going to have a kid. Here we go. Well, everything's just been lining up. And then we found out that we had a miscarriage. So we went through that, as a husband and wife. And that really was obviously very difficult. And it's something a lot of guys don't talk about. You know what I mean? But it happens. And so that is what the path that God chose for us. And I don't know if he chose it for us so I can then have a platform later and be able to talk about it. I don't know. That could be. So she was pregnant. We had the miscarriage. That honestly turned us to the church more than we ever have been before. And, thank God it did. So we then, a few months went by. Nicole's pregnant again. Then we had Kendall. We had our rainbow baby, the child after the storm. So we had Kendall, and again, she's awesome. Love her to death. She's 6 months old, and then it was like, oh, we're going to move to Kansas. We're going to move 7 hours away from all the grandparents when we were 1 hour away from at that point. So we moved to Kansas. We had Micah when Kendall was about 2. We had her little sister Micah, and then Micah was born with a birth defect that had some specialized surgeries involved, which really put a strain on us, as a family with my coaching schedule coupled with that, that we already talked about. So that was a difficult road for a few years, and it still is difficult to some extent. And then now we're here. We're in North Carolina. Life has settled down a little bit. I've got a schedule that I can manage. My traveling is scheduled travel. It's not the just extended nights, extended weekends, every weekend. And then my wife says, hey, we just built this beautiful house and we have too much room that God blessed us with. So we need to foster. We were meant to have 3 kids. And so maybe this is what God taught us that we needed to do. So we need to look into fostering. And I was like, you are crazy. I want no part of that. We already have 2 kids that we're trying to, we don't have control of, to be honest with you. We have all these other things going on. I've fought it tooth and nail. So then she just signed us up for the classes. We went and did the 6 straight Saturdays of classes, and you hear some of the stories and you don't really know how there are people walking this earth that could do such things to children, to be honest with you, or to their spouses. And so we went through the process and we started doing respite care, and it was 2 to 3 days at a time when another foster family needs a break. So we dipped our toe in the water, so to speak. And then we had our first longer term placement that just ended last week. We had siblings for about 3 weeks and introduced that into our family dynamic. And it was, my wife did an outstanding job. She was a rock star. The siblings were females, so they were a little hesitant to trust me or get attached to me, to be honest with you, because of some other things. And just the way it works, I finally got to where one of them was talking to me 2 days before, 3 weeks into this thing, and then 2 days later we find out they're moving back in with a family member. So my wife took it tough because she poured a lot into them, and she really did a great job. And then they were gone, but that's what it is, man. We need to. God, calls on you to take care of the orphans and the widows. And so that's what thankfully my wife is all in on doing it. And I am here to do what I can and just provide whatever we can, for as long as they're with us.
What that teaches you, I can only imagine. My brother did it. They fostered like 10 or 11 different kids through a several year period. What that teaches you, not only about yourself, but about your marriage and about just how fortunate we really are, right?
Oh yeah. And for our kids they don't totally comprehend, but for our kids to, I think they will eventually understand like how good they have it compared to others. And it's sad, and it's something that I think they need to understand. And there's some things that get talked about that I had never been around. I guess I've been a sheltered life, and it floors me. Like, I'm absolutely floored. I'm like, how are these people out walking around? It makes no sense. And I get told that it's the system. And so we're trying to do the best we can to not help the system, but, make the system a little bit better.
Dude, last question as we wrap up. If you're sitting in front of a new dad and he says, man, give me one piece of advice that's a game changer, what would you tell him?
Don't be so focused on your kids that you don't pour into your spouse. Because that's something I was very guilty of, and still am to some extent. And it's that paternal instinct that you take care of the children, and the spouse is an adult, they can take care of themselves, but it's something that I'm I'm guilty of all the time and I need to remind myself to do. But if they lose sight of that, if they lose sight of like really caring about their spouse, then that's only going to make the life for the child that much more difficult, to be honest with you. So sorry if I threw you a curveball there, but that honestly, that's the number one thing that I would tell a new dad.
Dude, when we were making the film, I had 2 counselors within like a 2-week period, didn't know each other, was just doing interviews. And when I asked them, what's the best thing a dad can do for his children? And without hesitation, both of them said, love their mom. And it was like, wow. And that's when you get that, that if that's good, if God is helping you in that area and you're pursuing him together in that area, then dude, the rest of it is a residual impact, right? And the rest of it, you got a pretty good chance the rest of it being good from a fathering standpoint. I'm not always good at that, and we're not always good at that, me and my wife, but it's that's trying to do that on a daily basis.
So there was a day, we're in Kansas, I was coaching, and we got 2 small children, and it's chaos. And I vividly remember we're in the kitchen, my wife's talking, and I think I'm texting a recruit. So like, they're talking to you, and I'm looking at my phone. I'm like, yeah. And then she was like, hey, can you be present? And I said, I am. I'm here. I'm right here. She was like, no. I know you're here. I need you to be present. There's a big difference. You are physically here, but you are not present with your family. And there's not a lot of things in life that you just remember one conversation. That was one of them that I remember. And I'm still guilty of it to this day. I think every single person is, and having these things doesn't help it. But I think being present as opposed to just physically being somewhere is something that a lot of dads and a lot of husbands can really try to focus on.
How can guys reach out to you, man, if they want to connect with you?
A variety of ways. I'm on Twitter at Coach Bartman, Bartman. Instagram, I think, is at Coach_Bartman. I'm on Facebook. I think it's Andrew Bartman 3, or just search for me. I'm the one that's in High Point, North Carolina. Shoot me an email. Don't flood the USA Baseball inbox, but CoachBart26@gmail. I got to keep that coach in there a little bit, and then honestly, my cell phone. If you send me an email, I'll reply to you, and you'll have my cell phone number too. If you ever want to talk, shoot me a call, shoot me a text. I'd love to be just a sounding board for somebody or be a resource for somebody if they need it.